We are getting into the next story here. We're going to get into some data. We're going to have some fun, crunch some numbers, throw our hands up in the air. Ladies and gentlemen, many a times on this show, I have talked about the Democratic Party's concerns about Jill Stein being on the ballot in Michigan and the support that she's receiving from Muslim voters and Arab American voters in Michigan. But there was one state that kind of slipped by me. I wasn't paying attention, but I am now. And that is the state of Wisconsin. It appears that AOC and Bernie Sanders are also now concerned about Jill Stein's presence on the ballot in Wisconsin. Let's go ahead and get into this clip here. Shout out to the wonderful case study QB in the house doing the damn thing. Check this out.
We've got far left socialist AOC, Senator Bernie Sanders, campaigning for her in Wisconsin today. Let's welcome back to the show America Majority CEO Ned Ryan. Ned, is this going to attract the undecided voters and independents? I mean, Larry Kudlow just said, how does this cause results? What results does this bring? What results do identity politics bring?
Well, I think they're getting extremely nervous about the progressive vote in Wisconsin. Liz, that's why you're sending up Bernie Sanders and AOC, and it all revolves around the fact that Jill Stein, despite Democrats' attempts to remove her from the ballot, actually succeeded in staying on the ballot this year. But let me run some numbers for you, Liz. In 2016, Jill Stein made the ballot. She got 31,000 votes in a state, Wisconsin, that Trump only won by 23,000 votes. Fast forward to 2020. They successfully litigated to get her off the ballot. Biden only won the state by 20,000 votes. Fast forward to 2024. She made the ballot again. They were unsuccessful in getting her off. They're afraid that those 30-some thousand votes that she got in 2016 might go her way in 2024, and that would really be devastating to Kamala Harris's chance in Wisconsin.
That's important data. Ned, that's really important what you said.
I think Jill Stein is going to do much better this time around than she did in 2016. And I want to show you what I mean by that. We're going to start looking at some numbers here. We can go to part two there, Eric. We're going to start looking at some numbers here, and I'm going to show you why, Jill Stein really does have the ability to get to that 5%. It's not going to be easy, but when I show you what I show you, I think you'll understand why they are still heavily attacking Jill Stein. Check this out. First, it was this article here from Slate. Yes, they're really voting for Jill Stein. They're in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and other close states. Next week, they will conscience vote, even if it delivers the White House to Donald Trump. So you see this here? I want to just fast forward to this part right about here. They are speaking to Al-Mari. Al-Mari says the value of defeating the Democratic Party makes Trump a price we're willing to pay, he said, quoting an imam from a recent sermon in Dearborn, where rallies and religious sermons have encouraged their communities to conscience vote. Like others, he believes casting a vote for a Democrat would be akin to supporting genocide, and that helping Trump win would send a stark message to the Democrats. Both parties are complicit, he said. Trump, Biden, it doesn't matter. But our vote can still mean something, and we intend to make it clear. When the administration won't listen, the least we can do is vote in a way that forces them to see us. Here's another one here, Pennsylvania. Sonia Rawson, a voter in Pennsylvania, told me she felt mocked by Harris' approach to Democratic voters, a majority of whom polls show want to see a permanent ceasefire in place, as Harris continued to support Israel as it expanded its war into Lebanon. She goes on to say, I can't endorse a candidate who is promising to kill more Arabs. Every single day, we're looking at average people, children, parents with their faces blown off. We are watching it unfold. It's painful to watch. This is happening day in and day out. And it is painful to watch people so cavalierly dismissing the lives of Arabs as if we don't count. She feels disgusted when other Democrats urge her to consider Harris as a lesser of two evils. She goes on to say, it is an impossible task to ask me to have to vote for someone who is actively contributing to a genocide of people like me that directly affects friends and family. I'm not going to do that. That's the first part. Here's the second part. They actually went to Dearborn. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. Let's make sure. Yeah. I want you to see what this guy said. He went to Dearborn to talk to some of the voters. Listen to this.
Vice President Harris is struggling to gain the support of Arab American voters in the battleground state of Michigan amid scrutiny of the administration's approach to the war in Gaza. Our Ed O'Keefe spoke with members of the Muslim community there.
Michigan, one of the 7 battleground states that's going to decide who lives in the White House next year. And in this state, there's a few numbers to consider. 4 years ago, President Biden won here by about 154,000 votes. And there's a sizable block of usually reliable Democratic voters in this state, Arab and Muslim Americans who live in and around Detroit and Dearborn. About 146,000 of them voted for President Biden 4 years ago.
146,000 Arab American and Muslim voters voted for Joe Biden in 2020. That's how Joe Biden was able to beat Trump in Michigan. Remember what I told you, that support was not there for Hillary Clinton when she ran in 2016. In order for the Democratic Party to win Michigan, or for Trump to win Michigan, they need to win Wayne County. So that would be Detroit, that would be Dearborn, right? Listen to this.
So if you start to lose their support, you could potentially be seeing a loss in Michigan unless you find another way to make it up. And that is why that group of people in this state has earned such outsized attention ever since, of course, the war in Gaza began last year. We met late last year with a guy named Adam from Dearborn who voted for and campaigned for President Biden 4 years ago and was quite disillusioned by what was happening.
As a community, we're tired of voting for the lesser of two evils. If you were to ask me 2 months ago if I was going to vote for Joe Biden, yeah, I would have held my nose and voted for him.
Nearly a year later, Adam is still thinking about this issue, but has decided exactly how he's going to vote. We talked to him and a few of his friends.
Did it get any easier to support Democrats when Harris became the nominee?
Look, when Harris became the nominee, for a lot of people, we felt like, okay, maybe we have an opportunity to have somebody fresh who can change things up and can, maybe shake things up in the Democratic Party. And that was quickly shot down. We saw things like they wouldn't even allow for a Palestinian to speak at the DNC.
So what are you going to do?
Personally, I'm going to vote for Jill Stein.
Really?
There it is.
Because?
Because she has called for an arms embargo. She has called for a permanent ceasefire. She has called to, for conditioning aid. Now, whether she can win in Michigan or not, whether she can win the presidency or not, it's 101% unlikely that she's going to win. But the reality is, I see somebody, I have a choice to vote for somebody that sees me as a human, that sees my family as a human, that actually cares about my community, whether she's going to win or not.
You have a choice.
Did you hear what he just said? I have a choice to support someone who sees me as a human. That says a lot. Listen to what they have to say.
In a few days of what to do when it comes to the election. I'm curious first, how did you vote 4 years ago for president?
Biden.
And what are you going to do this time?
Third party.
Jill Stein.
Write-in or third party, I haven't made my decision, but it's one of them.
So you guys hear that, right? Let me just come out here just a little bit. So he's like, dude's like flabbergasted here because he can't believe that this many people wants to support, a third party candidate. He's like, what are you thinking of? I'm trying to move forward here till we get back to this part where we were here.
Biden.
And what are you going to do this time?
Third party.
Jill Stein.
Write-in or third party, I haven't made my decision, but it's one of those two.
Write-in or third party.
So not Harris, not Trump.
No.
Did she do anything maybe to compel you to think about possibly supporting her? Or was this just too far a road to go just because of the fact that she supports the president's position on all this?
Well, The fact that she supported and is supporting the president hasn't said anything much different from him, and always says that, just because she's going to be a staunch supporter of Israel is a cause for concern. However, I was willing to give her a chance, and I was part of the uncommitted movement. But at every turn, we were rebuffed. And you just can't ask us to vote for genocide. And it's a terrible position to be in. I don't want to see Trump as president, but I cannot, in good conscience, give her my vote.
Did any of you ever consider voting for Trump?
No.
Yeah.
And why did you do that?
Because we look at this right now, and we're all over here. We've all said we're going to vote either third party or write-in. Third party or write-in for us is pretty much a loss of one vote for Kamala Harris. But if we're looking at this from a numbers standpoint, voting for Trump is pretty much, it's as if Kamala Harris is losing 2 votes, and from a number standpoint, if I really want Kamala to lose, which I do, I'd rather have Kamala lose than, I don't care what the outcome is. It's not my business, but Kamala didn't earn any of our votes. But if we really want her to lose, a vote for Trump makes more sense. But ethically and morally, I can't get myself to vote for Trump.
So you guys see what's happening there, right? You see that they're just like, no, we can't support Kamala Harris. And again, in the beginning, I think they were hopeful when it was announced that she was entering the race. They were like, okay, she seems to be a little bit more empathetic about Palestinian struggle. And then she made sure to let everybody know that she was just like Biden, that she wasn't going to move on that particular issue. So fast forward here, and we're looking at what this could look like for Jill Stein. Actually, let's go back to 2016 to show you the numbers that Jill Stein had in Michigan. Michigan alone, she was able to garner, let's come down here. Jill Stein was able to garner over 51,000 votes in Michigan, 1.1%. I want you to remember the percentage more than the number. That'll be important in a second. So 1.1%. Jill Stein and Ajamu Baraka were able to get in Michigan. So then I said to myself, what about Howie Hawkins? How did he do in Michigan in 2020? And I want you to see the difference. Howie Hawkins received 13.7K votes in Michigan, 0.2%. So as you can see, right? As you can see, Howie Hawkins came nowhere near close to the numbers that Jill Stein put up in 2016. So Joe Biden benefited from the Arab American and Muslim vote. You can see the difference here between him and Donald Trump, over 2.8 million versus over 2.6 million. That vote, that group made a difference for Joe Biden. So that's how he was able to pull that out. Now you'll also see, what about Wisconsin for Jill Stein in 2016? Wisconsin, we're moving on to Wisconsin because now I told you AOC and Bernie are starting to get worried about Wisconsin. So let's dive in and let's see how she did in Wisconsin. In 2016, she received over 31,000 votes. So 1% she received. So she performed better in Michigan than she did in Wisconsin. So this percentage here, these 31,000, this is what they're afraid could happen again. Now, I'm just going to keep it real. Jill Stein is more popular now than she was then. And we also didn't have the genocide then. And there are a number of Arab American voters and Muslim voters that are supporting Jill Stein. Many of you have already voted for Jill Stein. So those numbers are probably going to be higher. She's probably going to be able to get more than 31,000 votes in Wisconsin. She's probably going to be able to get more than 51,000 votes in Michigan. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, some of you may be wondering, well, how did Howie Hawkins do in Wisconsin? Well, remember this? Howie Hawkins was not on the ballot Howie Hawkins won't be on the presidential ballot in crucial Wisconsin. So remember this, ladies and gentlemen, the Green Party was not on the ballot in Wisconsin in 2020. So imagine how, and granted, Howie was not a great candidate. I'm just keeping it real. So that's another reason to give them pause. That's another reason to give AOC and Bernie pause, because they weren't there. Now they're there. And from what I hear, there are a number of people that either have already voted for Jill or plan on voting for Jill. Eric, do you have the PDF here? I'm trying to see. Oh, here we go. Thank you. Now we're going to look at the Atlas poll. Now, this Atlas Intel poll, when I was reviewing polls, they said this one is one of the more accurate ones. It is also it's also a little right leaning too. I want to mention that as well. But they said that this one is pretty good with accuracy. I want to show you how Jill's doing right now. Let's go to Michigan. We don't need no overview. We don't need no overview. We don't need no overview. You guys know I got to turn everything into a song. You know I got to. Okay. That was Arizona. We'll speed through. Yada, yada. And let's make our way to, well, we can always come back to Georgia, but I really want to focus on Michigan and Wisconsin right now. Michigan. Let's see how Jill Stein is doing right now in Michigan. So what you will see, for which of these candidates on the Michigan ballot will you vote for in the upcoming presidential election? Jill Stein has 1.8%. That, along with the fact that third-party candidates, we are less likely to be polled. Third-party voters, we're less likely to be polled, right? Because they don't really know. I feel like they don't really know, like, if someone is going to vote third party or for independent. We are going to be underpolled. So just keep that in mind. 1.8% that has been polled. And that's just Michigan. And if you go back to where she was in 2016 in Michigan, she was at 1.1%. So she's already ahead in the polls of where she was in 2016. I would imagine she's going to do pretty well. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to go back and I want to show you another one here. We're going to go to Wisconsin. She's already ahead. And this is why they're scared. So let's go to Wisconsin here, which I think is further down. I think they put them in alpha order. Yeah, they did put them in alpha order. Nevada. They could have created like a, I don't know, a separate page or something. It's North Carolina, yada, yada. Oh, let me come back up. Yeah, it's North Carolina. So Wisconsin, I think, should be after this one. Nope, that's Pennsylvania. Go back. You guys could have put all this on. Some of this stuff could have been on one page. Save pages. Wisconsin. Here we go. Okay. Let's see how she's doing in Wisconsin right now. In Wisconsin, right now, she's polling at 0.6%. So let's see how she did in Wisconsin in 2016. Where am I? Am I here? Wisconsin. So she was polling at 1%. So she's not polling as high as she was in Wisconsin in 2016. But again, I would imagine this is going to increase. So they're concerned. And the reason why I would imagine this is increasing, because they're concerned. They're already concerned. That tells you something. That tells you they're seeing something internally, ladies and gentlemen, that we are not seeing. So that is important. Now, one thing I want to point out as well. When it comes to Jill Stein with Wisconsin and Michigan, we also got to remember Pennsylvania. There's also a significant Muslim population in Pennsylvania. Jill was just in Pittsburgh. I think before that, she was in Arizona. She's been going all over the place. She was in Georgia. So all of these swing states, she has been there. And I think she's going to be in Dearborn, Michigan for election night. So the Democrats are worried, and I think they have every right to be. I saw that, Andy. Jill had an overflow crowd in Arizona. I saw that. Kamala's not leading in Arizona right now anyway. I don't think they really count on Arizona, but yeah. But you know what I mean? I think she's going to do better than she did in 2016. Again, there wasn't the genocide at that point in time, and she's more popular now than she was before. The Democratic Party they created attack ads against Jill Stein. They hadn't done that before. And the Democratic Party has also, I don't know if you guys know this, Jill Stein has billboards in over 40 states. They're also putting up billboards to try to combat her billboards. So the Democratic Party, they're fighting against a third party candidate and Donald Trump instead of moving to the left of the third party candidate. Does this make sense to you? At the end of the day, you can't blame Jill Stein voters. You have to blame the Democratic Party for moving to the right. That's how I see it.